You're listening to The Deep Dive, where AI voices break down big ideas. Every week, Nova and Echo guide you through the tools, trends, and thinking behind the AI revolution. No hype, no fluff, just smart conversations sparked by AI.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. So today we've got this pretty hefty stack of sources in front of us.
Yeah, quite a mix. We're talking industry reports, some deep research papers, and actually some really interesting real-world case studies, too.
Exactly. And our mission really is to cut through all that and get right to the core of something that's, well, fundamentally changing how we all work.
Which is this incredibly rapid shift in jobs, in skills,
Right.
all happening in the age of generative AI.
Right. We want to figure out what this actually means for roles, for the capabilities we need, and, what the future of work might look like, especially what's most relevant for you listening in.
Precisely. We're digging into the economic side of things, how it's reshaping specific jobs, and I think crucially, how people and AI can actually, work together.
Okay, so let's dive in. And honestly, one of the first things that jumped out at me from these sources, it kind of challenges what we might have expected about automation, right?
Like, historically, technology often hit routine tasks first, maybe jobs needing less specialized training. But what are these sources telling us about Gen AI?
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting, maybe even a bit counterintuitive. The material suggests that generative AI is actually likely to have its biggest incremental impact by automating tasks, usually done by, well, more educated, higher-wage knowledge workers.
So people heavy on information processing, drafting things, summarizing reports, that kind of work.
Exactly that kind of work. Areas where understanding natural language is absolutely key.
So the impact is hitting white-collar roles, maybe faster than we thought.
That's what it looks like. And a big part of why it's accelerating, according to these sources, is the nature of generative AI itself.
Oh, so?
Well, unlike older AI, which was often trained for, very specific, narrow jobs,
Right.
generative AI is built on these huge foundation models.
Which means they're incredibly flexible. They use deep learning, basically these complex, layered neural networks, and they're trained on just massive amounts of diverse, messy, unstructured data.
So, like, pretty much all the text on the web, billions of images, code, stuff that isn't neatly in a spreadsheet.
Exactly that, all the messy stuff. And because they've processed this huge amount of information, they can suddenly do a whole range of things that, well, previously only people could really do well.
Like summarizing, drafting emails, coding.
Creating images, answering complex questions in a conversational way.
Yeah, the sources are calling it a step change evolution in what AI can do.
And that step change obviously has some pretty big economic implications. The numbers we're seeing cited are, well, they're kind of eye-popping.
They really are. Just looking at 63 specific business uses they analyzed, generative AI is estimated to add somewhere in the ballpark of $2.6 trillion to $4.4 trillion annually to the global economy.
$4.4 trillion.
Wow. I mean, one source puts that in perspective, saying it's more than the entire GDP of the UK back in 2021.
Yeah, more than the UK's whole economy, just from those applications. And like you said, that's not even the full picture.
Right.
If you think about how Gen AI can be embedded into the software we already use, boosting productivity everywhere,
then the total impact gets even bigger.
potentially doubles, yeah. Maybe reaching $6.1 to $7.9 trillion in total annual impact. It could boost the overall economic effect of all AI by like 15 to 40%. It's a serious number.
That's huge. So where's most of this value likely to show up first? Which business areas?
The sources suggest about 3/4, so 75% of that value is expected across 4 main functions: customer operations, marketing and sales, software engineering, and R&D.
Which makes sense. Those are all pretty heavy on the kind of knowledge work you mentioned Gen AI is good at.
Exactly. Lots of language, data analysis, content creation.
So if that's where the value is, and it's impacting knowledge work, what does this actually do to the structure of our jobs, how we spend our time?
Well, the research suggests it could really change the day-to-day. Generative AI and similar tech could potentially automate something like 60 to 70% of the time employees currently spend on work activities.
60 to 70%. That's a lot
Yeah.
higher than previous estimates, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought it was closer to 50.
It was. That earlier estimate was around 50%. This jump seems to be largely down to that natural language ability we talked about.
Because language is just part of almost everything we do in knowledge work.
Pretty much. And this capability is hitting human-level performance way earlier than experts predicted.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one analysis pointed out that the median human performance level for things like natural language understanding, technology might have reached that as early as 2023.
Wow. The forecast used to be, what, 2027 or something?
Exactly. It was 2027 just a few years ago. So the potential for automation is here, or very, very close.
Okay. Potential's one thing, but widespread adoption. That takes time, surely.
Yeah.
We're not going to wake up tomorrow and find 70% of our tasks automated.
Oh, absolutely not. No, the material is clear on that. Going from the first company adopting it to it becoming widespread, that plateau, that can take anywhere from, say, 8 to 27 years.
Right.
You've got all sorts of factors. How much does it cost versus paying a person? How hard is it to actually integrate into the systems we already have? How quickly do different industries just, pick up new tech?
But even that adoption timeline seems to be speeding up.
It does seem to be. The midpoint estimate, the point where 50% of work activities could theoretically be automated, that's accelerated by about a decade.
From when to when?
From around 2053 down to 2045. And interestingly, the sources expect this adoption to happen faster in countries with higher wages.
Because the cost saving is greater, the incentive is stronger.
Makes sense, right? Automate the expensive labor first.
So, okay. Work activities are shifting, automation potential is rising faster, particularly hitting these knowledge roles. What skills then become really critical for individuals trying to navigate this? Is it just about learning to code AI?
Well, there's definitely a need for those specialist AI skills, sure. People who can actually build and train these models, prompt engineers, machine learning experts.
Right.
But the sources suggest that's actually a pretty small slice of the overall workforce demand.
Okay, that's potentially a relief for many of us.
Yeah.
I don't need to become a prompt engineer by next week. So for the rest of us, what's the focus?
Well, first off, just a general understanding of AI seems crucial for pretty much everyone.
Meaning what exactly?
Meaning you need to know how to actually use these tools effectively, understand what they can do, what they can't do, their limitations, and be able to critically look at what they produce.
Right, because they can sometimes just make stuff up, can't they? The sources talk about hallucinations. You need to know if the output is reliable.
Exactly. You need that critical lens. But here's maybe the key insight from the data we looked at. The demand for what the sources call supporting skills and uniquely human behaviors, that often outweighs the demand for purely technical AI skills and actual job postings.
Okay, wait. That feels linked to the earlier point about knowledge workers.
Yeah.
If AI is handling the drafting, the summarizing, what's left for the human?
Precisely. What's left are the things AI doesn't do well, or maybe can't do at all.
Such as?
The sources really highlight things like relationship management, a genuine willingness to learn that adaptability piece, critical thinking, empathy.
So the softer skills, though I hate that term, the core human skills.
Yeah, exactly. The skills that often mark out top performers anyway, right?
Dude.
And the sources actually backed this up with data. They looked at roles like finance analysts, project managers, account managers, HR folks, and they see the importance rising for skills like process improvement, making good decisions, listening well, those interpersonal skills, curiosity, coaching others.
Well, things like basic writing or editing are maybe becoming less critical.
For some of those roles, yeah, because the AI can do a first pass or handle a lot of the basic reporting.
So it's less about the routine doing the task and more about the strategic thinking around it and the interacting with people.
Absolutely. That seems to be the shift. And the material points out something really interesting. The gap between the supply of people with skills like adaptability and creative thinking and the demand for those skills, that gap is just as big as the gap for AI and machine learning skills, around 35 percentage points.
Wow. So those human skills are just as scarce and in demand as the technical ones.
That's what the data suggests. There's a great quote in one of the reports that really nails it, I think. It says something like, AI will create jobs. Many tasks will disappear, but cognitive skills will be geared towards humans. This is where skills will be needed.
That sums it up perfectly. It's not humans versus AI. It's humans leaning into what makes us human. which leads us really nicely into this whole idea of human-AI collaboration, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's a huge theme running through all the research we looked at. The future isn't really seen as AI replacing people wholesale.
Thank goodness.
Right. It's much more about combining the strengths of both. AI is phenomenal at crunching data, spotting patterns, generating options super fast.
But humans bring
the emotional intelligence, the ethical compass, the common sense understanding of the world, the creative spark, things AI just doesn't have. It's about getting results together that neither could manage alone.
And the sources even break down different ways this collaboration might actually look.
They do. They talk about sort of a spectrum. You might have AI-centric models where the AI does most of the heavy lifting, but a human is there providing critical oversight, making the final call.
Okay.
Then you have human-centric ways where the person is clearly in charge, but they're using AI as this incredibly powerful assistant or tool to augment their own abilities.
Like a co-pilot.
Kind of, yeah. And then there are these more maybe aspirational symbiotic models where humans and AI are almost like equal partners, dynamically trading tasks, maybe even learning from each other as they go.
Are there good real-world examples of this in the material? Does it show this actually working?
Oh, definitely. Healthcare provides some really clear illustrations.
Like how?
Well, think about radiologists. AI is being used to help analyze medical scans like X-rays or MRIs. It can flag potential issues, maybe tiny anomalies, much faster than the human eye sometimes.
Right.
But, and this is crucial, the doctor, the human radiologist, still applies all their deep medical knowledge, their experience, their judgment to make the final diagnosis and decide on treatment.
So the AI assists, it doesn't decide.
Exactly. There's a quote from an expert in there saying, integrating AI in healthcare isn't about replacing human judgment, it's about enhancing it.
Yeah.
The AI gives you superpowers, but the human provides the wisdom and takes the responsibility.
That makes a lot of sense. Are there examples in other fields too?
Yeah, customer service comes up quite a bit. Some studies found that when customer service agents use AI assistants, maybe suggesting answers or finding information quickly, they actually resolved more issues and did it faster. And what was really interesting was that the less experienced agents saw the biggest benefit. The AI helped bring them up closer to the level of the top performers, like giving everyone an expert guide.
And what about education? We touched on personalized learning earlier.
Right. Intelligent tutoring systems, or IT, they get highlighted again here. These AI systems can create really tailored learning paths for students, adapting to their pace, their learning style, identifying where they're struggling.
Freeing up the human teacher.
Exactly. It can handle some of the routine practice or explanation, allowing the teacher to focus on higher level stuff, deeper understanding, critical thinking, individual mentoring, complex needs, and the results seem promising. Studies showed students using these systems sometimes gained up to 15 percentile points compared to just traditional teaching.
Wow.
Yeah, the sources basically say these tutoring systems can be a really effective guide alongside classroom instruction.
So again, is AI augmenting the human role, making it potentially more focused, more impactful?
That's the idea. The material also gives brief nods to financial services. Think AI helping analysts wade through mountains of data for investment research or analyzing market sentiment. There's a mention of first-centier investors using it, and even in creative fields.
How does that work?
Well, maybe AI generates a bunch of initial concepts or visual styles or musical motifs, but then the human artist, the designer, the composer comes in to curate, refine, add the real vision, the emotion, the unique spark.
Okay, so the potential for collaboration seems massive, but it's not all positive, is it? The sources definitely spend time on the risks and challenges too. This isn't just smooth sailing.
Oh, absolutely not. No, these technologies are powerful, and with power comes risk. The research flags quite a few significant issues.
Like what?
Well, algorithmic bias is a big one. The AI models learn from data, and if that data reflects existing societal biases...
The AI learns a bias too.
Exactly. It can end up reinforcing stereotypes, leading to unfair outcomes. Then there are risks around intellectual property, who owns the output. Privacy is huge, especially when AI handles personal or sensitive data. And security threats.
Security?
Yeah.
Like hacking the AI?
Sort of. Things like prompt injection attacks are mentioned, where someone tries to trick the AI with hidden instructions to make it do malicious things, leak data, that sort of thing.
Prompt injection. Okay, that sounds concern.
It is. And there are other risks too. Explainability issues, the whole black box problem, where it's hard to know why the AI decided something. Reliability concerns, we mentioned hallucinations, AI just making things up, potential negative impacts on how organizations work, maybe de-skilling, and even social and environmental costs. Training these huge models takes a lot of energy.
Quite a list. Are there also challenges specifically with the collaboration part? Getting humans and AI to work well together?
Yes, definitely. That algorithmic bias we talked about, it can lead to something called human automation bias. It's where people start to blindly trust the AI's output, even if it's flawed, just because it came from the smart machine. They stop critically evaluating it.
Right. Over-reliance.
Exactly. Then you have practical hurdles like just integrating AI smoothly into how people already work, dealing with human resistance, maybe fear or anxiety about AI taking jobs. And yeah, that risk of becoming too reliant on the AI, letting our own skills atrophy over time.
So given all those potential pitfalls,
Right.
what do the sources suggest we do about them? How do we navigate this?
They focus on a few key strategies. Number one is keeping a human in the loop for any really critical decisions. Don't let the AI run fully autonomously on high-stakes stuff.
Makes sense.
Regular auditing of the AI systems is crucial. Checking for bias, checking for performance drift, using diverse, high-quality training data from the start helps minimize bias, too.
What about on the tech side?
Things like building robust, scalable systems for managing data securely, having really clear rules and protocols for how people should interact with the AI, and working on transparency, making AI outputs easier to understand, more explainable so people can question them effectively.
Right.
There's a quote about this. If you want the bias out, get the algorithms in, but make sure humans remain actively engaged in the decision-making process.
That really hits the nail on the head. Active human engagement, not just passive acceptance. And speaking of humans, the sources also flag a pretty big training gap, don't they? Like, businesses want to use AI, but the workforce isn't necessarily ready.
Yeah, that comes through loud and clear as a major barrier. One piece of research mentioned that in the UK, for example, even though bosses see AI as vital, only about 1 in 5 workers across all levels is actually getting any AI-related training.
1 in 5, that's low.
It is. And that lack of skills, that lack of preparedness, it's actually slowing down how quickly companies can adopt and benefit from AI.
So how do we fix that? How do we bridge that skills gap? Can AI in itself actually help?
That's another really interesting angle from the material. The answer seems to be yes, AI can actually help solve the skills challenge it's partly creating.
How?
Well, first, just by automating some of those routine, time-consuming tasks we talked about.
It frees people up.
Exactly. It potentially frees up valuable human time. Instead of being bogged down in admin or repetitive stuff, people could use that time for more strategic work, for learning new skills, focusing on higher value things. The sources even mentioned data showing AI users reporting they save time, focus better on important work, feel more creative, and actually enjoy their jobs more.
So it's like a virtuous cycle. AI frees up time, which allows for learning, which makes you better at working with AI.
That's the potential, yeah. And AI can also directly power better training systems.
Like personalized learning.
Precisely. AI-driven learning platforms can tailor training content and pathways to what each individual employee actually needs. They can track progress much more effectively, provide real-time feedback. One source mentions Admiral Group's Data and AI Academy using this approach to rack up significant learning hours.
What about finding opportunities within a company? Internal mobility.
Yeah, AI-enabled talent marketplaces are becoming a thing too. These platforms can intelligently match employee skills and aspirations to internal projects, short-term gigs, or even new roles within the same company.
So helping people upskill and move around internally rather than leaving.
Exactly. Promotes mobility, helps retain talent, keeps things dynamic. Aon's investment in AI tools for analytics and learning programs gets mentioned in this context.
And there was also that case study about the finance industry group, the CISI.
Right, the Chartered Institute for Securities and Investment. That's a great example because it shows how specific industries are developing training focused not just on using AI, but on the ethics of AI.
Which is crucial, especially in regulated areas like finance.
Absolutely. Managing bias, ensuring data privacy, deploying AI responsibly, that kind of ethical understanding is becoming paramount. It shows training needs to cover responsible adoption, not just technical operation.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. We've waded through this big stack of sources. And the picture seems to be generative AI is transforming economies, transforming jobs at a really accelerated pace. It's hitting knowledge work in ways we maybe didn't expect.
Right. And while, yeah, some people need deep technical AI skills, for most of us, the bigger need is a solid general understanding of AI.
And, maybe even more importantly, doubling down on those uniquely human capabilities. Critical thinking, adaptability, empathy, collaboration.
Yeah.
Those supporting skills and behaviors.
Exactly. Because the real power, the bad outcomes, seem to come when you thoughtfully combine human strengths with what AI can do. Human-AI collaboration is key.
Which means, for you listening, it's really essential to engage with this shift, isn't it?
Yeah, you need to be proactive. Think about your own skills. Where are the gaps? Look for relevant training. And that means both understanding the tech and strengthening those core human skills. Figure out how you can collaborate effectively with these new tools.
This has been, well, a really comprehensive deep dive. Lots to think about.
It certainly has. A lot is changing. And fast.
So maybe the final thought to leave everyone with is this. Given the sheer speed of this change and this clear pivot towards valuing uniquely human skills right alongside AI capabilities, how will you proactively shape your own role, your own continuous learning journey to really thrive in this landscape as it keeps evolving?
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for exploring with us. If you learned something new or sparked an idea, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Got a topic you want Nova and Echo to break down next? Drop it in the comments. Until next time, keep prompting, keep building, and keep doing it with AI.